you look at 90% of mine are regular, everyday people in the city of Eagle that know that I'm doing a good job. They want to see the city move in the direction that it's going.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
Thank you for coming this morning. Again, I know the election is soon, but here we are Monday morning, 8 a.m. Thanks for taking the time to come in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So listen, as we were talking right before the mics went hot, this election has become really intense. There's a lot of information flying around. A lot of people are very impassioned and rooting for their guy, which is great, right? Like, you want participation.
For sure.
But it has definitely veered into the realm of like, one person's the devil and one person's not. And anytime I talk to people in private or even on air, it's like, listen, both people are good people, right? Like, they have different visions for policy and strategies, but they're both good people, right? Like, I assume you would agree.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of address, if you want to, any of the things going on, because one of the things that everybody's screaming about is, look, there's so much misinformation going around. There are so many half truths or blatant lies, things like that. Is there anything you want to hit and kind of put to rest?
I mean, just there's like you
Where
said, where to start, right? I mean, it's amazing. You've got someone, my opponent, who has voted for 98% of the things that we've done, and now is flip flopping on things, right? It's everything from the senior center to the arts commission, to the sports park, to all these different things, and now all of a sudden, he's going to go back and change what has happened. And it doesn't make any sense, because I don't get to vote unless there's a tie. So he's actually voted for these things and what we've done moving forward. And what was really interesting was, I think it really summed it up in the podcast you did with him, where he says he's a mushroom in the closet. He's the only council member that's a mushroom in the closet. The rest have brought a ton of things to us, right? I mean, Charlie Bond, when he was 2 years the council president, I mean, he came in and brought conservation things for farmland to help us save farmland and open space in Eagle, which are things that we want to have. I mean, there's just been so many things that the other council members have done, and Brad just has kind of not brought anything to the table. He shows up on Tuesdays. He goes through his packets. He's usually pretty well informed. He boasts about the two things that he didn't vote for. One was a project that would have gone into Star if it didn't go to Eagle, and Star doesn't develop like Eagle does. So why would we want their type of product right next to the stuff that we have? And then you've got, Avamore, which was, let's stick our head in the sand and pretend like, it's not going to happen. And I mean, we just can't have that. We have to take the bull by the horns and make sure that we're creating the Eagle that we want. And I'll say that, even his comment that, now's not the time. So when's the time? Because things don't get less dense, right? You look at everywhere in the country, right? Every community you go to, they have done more density and more density over time, not less. And so if we can set stuff in stone today that will say, hey, this is what it's going to be for the life of the project, 50, 60 years, that's what we want to do. You go back to Spring Valley, the Valnova project up in the foothills.
I practiced that word like 5 times, by the way, before you came.
Valnova,
not,
to make
Valnova,
sure
not screwing it up this time.
I mean, you look at that project, that was one the city took by the horns back in 2009 and approved the project. It took until 2021 for it to break ground, right? Because it was a project that had so many restrictions on it. It had to be the right developer to come in and do it that could do something over 30, 40 years. And, it's sad that people get mixed up in the, what it's going to be. They're not helicoptering in 8,500 homes tomorrow. It's over the next 50 or 60 years on 18,000 acres, which is less than one house per 2 acres. I mean, where else do you get that kind of density overall in a project? You just don't. And then saving 75% of it is open space in the foothills that is now in the public's hands. It's not in private ownership, where it could just be shut off at any time, which we saw with, the Texans coming in and buying a bunch of Idaho land and putting gates up. And, we wanted to make sure that those that have used that land for, the last 50, 60 years would continue to be able to use it for the equestrian, for the hiking, for the dog walking, all the fun stuff that people have been able to use it for. Luckily enough, the McLeod family has allowed us to do that. And so now we get to, have it forever.
Yeah, and the Avamore thing was one of the biggest rallying cries between these two campaigns. One campaign saying we get to have this land now, we get to recreate on it, we get to control the density, we get to control the development, and the other side saying it's going to cost us money. Planning and zoning didn't want it, and it's not now, it's just not never, right? So talk to me about the actual expense, because I understand the concept of, hey, you get to control the density of an additional part. That makes perfect sense to me. But obviously the drawback is, okay, you get to control the density at what cost, right? Because if it's like, okay, you can control the density, but it bankrupts the city, which is not even close to what's happening, right? That's a trade-off where you're like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. If you get to control the density and it doesn't cost you anything, okay, that makes perfect sense. So what is the cost that people should be paying attention to, positive or negative, for controlling the density and getting that open space up in Avamore?
Yeah, so what's interesting is that whole thought process is something that was from the initial application of the project. Things changed, right? So first of all, that initial cost was 10 years influx of money. The next 10 years, from 10 to 20, is going to be even, right? But you still got the one-time fees and all the stuff from the first. And then in year 30, it's going to start costing you money. Okay, that was the initial. Well, when the developer saw that, and the McLeod family in Avamore, they made some adjustments, and they took it to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning, once again, they said, now's not the time, maybe in the future, right? So then Avamore listened to that. And when they brought it to the council, it wasn't the same project that it was when it came to the Planning and Zoning Commission, right? When they denied it, they listened and they made adjustments, which a lot of developers do. When planning and zoning tells you that there's going to be these issues, then the developer gets a choice. Do I make changes to this project before I bring it to the council because the council is going to hear that they wanted these changes, or do I continue with the same project? Okay. And so they made changes. So they put in more parks. Okay. They decided to, take on the responsibility of maintaining the trails, all these other things. And this is stuff that we've done over the last 20 years in our community with projects like Legacy. Valnova has to do the same thing. You've got now Avamore. And so with these bigger projects, we can put more onus on the people that are moving into that community to take care of stuff and not have it fall back on the residents that are existing here. And so that has totally changed now in how that is perceived and looked at, because a lot of it was capital improvements. Oh, now that you have these people, you're going to have to build all these extra parks. You're going to have to build all these extra trails and all the things that are in the comprehensive plan. Well, guess what? Avamore stepped up and said, okay, we'll take care of that. They even gave us money towards the policing deficit for the first year that we would have. And, that's really the only added expense that we are going to have is policing, and their property taxes that those people will pay will take care of that, because they're already in the West Ada School District. They're already in the Eagle Fire District. Right? There's all these things that we are doing. And then on top of that, we were able to control the water and make sure that, hey, the project, if they don't have the water they say they have, they can't continue to add houses. So if they get to, 3,000 homes in the next, 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden the water starts depleting out of the aquifer that they're pulling water from up there in the foothills, then they can't build anymore. We put these things in place to make sure that we don't turn into places that, a lot of folks have moved from.
This podcast is brought to you by Legacy Life Memories, the premier video autobiographical production company for you and your aging loved ones. Legacy Life Memories helps preserve memories of a lifetime in high-quality video that can be shared with every generation to come. Visit LegacyLifeMemories.com and find out how they can help your family today. Right, and the water was a big concern. I remember a lot of people talking about it. They're like, they're going to deplete the Eagle water system. It's like, no. Avamore has its own water system up there, right? And they need to...
Well, they don't now.
So they don't have any wells or anything right now?
Not right now. They don't. That was one of the things that we were able to do through this process and through some processes that even happened before it was annexed. Right now, they're using Suez water, which is bringing water from down here in the Suez wells, and they've got a pipeline that goes all the way up Highway 55 into the Avamore project.
And so now they're going to have to be water independent.
Correct. And now they're going to have to build the system. They're going to have to take it from the wells and the water that they have access to, and then they're going to have to turn it over to the city of Eagle to be able to maintain and take care of with the fees that the people that live up there will pay.
Understood.
And, you know, folks have said, oh, well, their water rights, they were only 5 years from them going away. Well, then guess all they would have done if they would have continued to grow was use the water from down here. Right? And so some folks have said, oh, well, you know, you gave them a lifeline with this water. No, we didn't. Suez could have continued to supply them with water for the whole phase and the whole project and just keep adding more, adding more, adding more. So we did not save them from anything.
This is an important point because I haven't heard this perspective. So you're saying that they could have continued to build on Avamore without producing their own water system, and Suez would have had to actually supply the water for them.
Correct.
So there was no restriction on their building based on water.
Nope. None. And Suez will pull water from, because their system is connected throughout the whole valley. So they're going to take water from everywhere and shift it all around so that they can provide the water to them. You know, Avamore might have had to do something with those wells up there and give them to Suez, but once again, then they would have been in control of Suez. So here we're actually able to bring them in and make sure that the Eagle residents and the people that live in Eagle will be the ones that own those water rights, that go to the development within Eagle and not outside of the Eagle area.
Gotcha. That's an important point.
Definitely.
So from a financial standpoint, then you're saying that the financial analysis that was done originally, it was not the finished product that was brought to the council that was eventually voted on.
Well, no, there wasn't another financial one done. What it was is the original financial was done, and then what they did is they made changes where it showed that where the expenses would have been to the city. So by the time the project came, we didn't do another financial analysis.
Gotcha.
I think actually the one that was done, you know, you might have gone, oh, geez, you know, in 30 years, it's going to start costing us money, but we're still able to live off the first 10 years,
Sure.
right? If you do things right. And so it would have been maybe 40 years before it started. I mean, you look at any project that's in the city of Eagle and you do a financial analysis like that, it always costs you more. Most cities live off one-time fees, okay, where they get the money that comes in for the impact fees, they get money for building permits, they get all those things. Where we shift away from that is when we start adding commercial. And that's where you're going to have commercial up in Avamore, you've got commercial in Valnova, you've got the commercial in Eagle that we've added over the last, I mean, the number of businesses and commercial and tax dollars we brought in as far as property taxes off commercial has been huge, and it's starting to shift our tax base away from all the residential to go to commercial.
That's actually something I wanted to ask you about as well. As a fee-based revenue stream, right? The city of Eagle's really at risk because obviously, like peaks and valleys, right? As you have building booms, you have all this excess, and that's fantastic. And hopefully you stock some away in a rainy day fund. But then when you have the bust, right? Obviously, if you're relying heavily on those fees and contractors coming to pull permits and whatever, that's a real problem because now all of that dries up. So what's your vision for getting away from that fee-based system? And again, I know you said that we've just started, there is an influx of commercial and whatnot, but what's your vision for getting the city into a more sustainable revenue stream?
Well, and that's what we've been doing. It's through commercial, more commercial tax base. So remember, the commercial tax base, the only thing we get that is from them are property taxes. Sales tax in Idaho is distributed by population. So it doesn't matter if as a city we have absolutely no commercial, we're going to get the same amount of sales tax as Boise, who has a ton, right? That's the way it works in Idaho. And a lot of people are going, oh, well, you have more commercial, now you have more tax revenue, and now you can pay more to this organization or that, different thing. And that's not true.
Gotcha.
Okay, it's based basically on population. The reason Idaho does that is because, there's so few cities that are over 10,000 in population. And so they need a way to survive. And so Idaho has said, hey, we're going to distribute it based on population. And so what we do get, though, is we get that property tax. And commercial buildings stay fairly flat. They don't fluctuate up and down during recessions and ups and downs. And so when you have that property tax, the more you have in commercial, the more stable your property tax stays. And that's important because the way in Idaho is it really fluctuates between residential and commercial. So when we had the big boom and the residential was going through the roof, well, all of a sudden now all the people that are living in the homes, they are paying a bigger share of property taxes based on the value, but the commercial kind of stayed level. And so you can't collect more money than what you have in your budget, right? It's not like California where you get it based on how much is coming in.
Sure.
It's whatever our budget is, it's tied to that. But if residential value goes up, that means the commercial ones actually pay less in property taxes because their value stayed stable. Now, all of a sudden, if you have a downturn, right, and values go down, the commercial will pay more. So like the Albertsons and Eagle back in 2006 when the economy was tanking and 7 was paying $60,000 a year in property taxes. Well, during the peak that we've just had, they're down to, $39,000-$35,000.
That's wild. I had people, because people talked about commercial. I'm like, okay, but what's the relationship specifically? So they're essentially like they're a hedge against dropping residential property tax revenue.
Well, yeah, it's just they're stable. They're your consistency throughout the whole
But they could
thing.
actually go up.
Well,
Like what I mean by hedge is if your residential drops down, then the commercial steps up in a sense.
Right, not value-wise,
Not
but
value,
property
property
tax
tax revenue.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, so what is happening to increase that? Because I mean, there's a lot to do about mini storages and things of that going into the areas. Is that part of the plan? It's like, okay, let's keep bringing in some manner of commercial, so that we have a larger commercial property tax base. Is that part of that overall strategy, or it's just
mini storage has? I mean, that's usually something you're trying to put in an area where you don't want to put houses, but you can still get a tax base from because it's a lot less. There's not as many road trips going in and out. A storage facility is like 20 trips a day, right? Where a average house is 10. So if you put in 40 houses, you're putting 400 trips a day. If you put a mini storage in that area and it makes sense and it looks good and what you want in Eagle, then it creates about 15 to 20 trips a day, right? So it's a lot better for that kind of activity. But you look at what we've done. Pet IQ building, $20 million building. We've got a $28, almost $30 million Money Metals Exchange building going in. We have, the new Gem State Brewing. We have the upgrade to Doug's Burger Den to Spitfire Taco, right? We've got the new Wild West building that's going on the corner. I mean, those things are going to really help to stabilize that property tax base as we move forward. And so that's really, really important for the city to be able to have that, what you talked about, right? Where you don't want to have in a downturn, you don't want to go
boom, bust,
not have money. Exactly.
A quick question that is really relevant to the downtown area. I did speak with Megan from Sweet Tea Living about a week or so ago, well, a while ago, but it published recently. And with all the construction downtown, and again, I know ACHD and larger plans and dealing with traffic, and Megan was very clear. It's like, look, something needs to change downtown, and she's very positive about the changes that are happening, but she's also very concerned for her business and the other businesses down there. Is there any like, life preserver or anything that the city can really do to try to help those businesses stay in existence through, it's essentially like the next 2 years, the entire downtown space is going to be in different phases of disrepair.
Yeah. So for us, it's holding our events, right? And having
like
that
the Harvest Festival and stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Country Christmas coming up.
Right.
How do we hold those events and make it happen? How do we go out through social media and stuff and help, get the word out to support local businesses? That's what it is. And a lot of it, is their responsibility too, and how they're able to, I've noticed Megan's done a great job recently on social media and other stuff promoting her business.
She's great. Yeah.
Right. And getting people to come out and go there. We have businesses down there that, even though all this construction is going on, has had some of their best years. And it's because of what they've done with their business to promote it and get out there and on top of things. And I think a lot of those businesses are seeing that, hey, that's what we have to do. We're going to have to be a little bit more out there right now than we normally would be, where we rely on the people that just come to downtown.
Right.
But I think for the city, for us, it's really making sure that we're getting those businesses with ACHD, which is a separate entity, and knowing what is going on, when things are going to happen, so that they have that rapport and understanding, so they know when to hold that big event or when not to, that they're even going to do on their own. Sure. And then for us, really promoting them on small businesses, right? Getting them, just getting the community to remember, hey, support the mom and pops. They need you right now.
Yeah, get the eyeballs on them.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the things with, my opponent also comes out and says that, we need to bring in more commercial, corporate type businesses to stable out the mom and pops when they're having trouble. And I'm like, no, those will take the mom and pops out. I mean, Amazons don't help mom and pops. Costco's don't help mom and pops. I mean, they just don't, right? I mean, you want you want to have those things that really make our community special. You go to any other city in this valley, and they don't have what we have when it comes to, the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, and we want to keep encouraging that as much as possible.
Gotcha. Todd, you touched on it briefly. Talk to me about the senior center, because there has been a lot going on with the senior center, right? And again, a lot of people, there was misunderstandings. I mean, obviously you have a senior center organization, you have a senior center physical building. The senior center organization obviously, was asked to leave. They got evicted, and then it sounds like the city took over, right? And was attempting to do upgrades and make it a better, more comfortable, fully functioning, senior center that's run by the city. What do you see happening with this? Because again, Brad is talking about trying to bring things back into harmony, and I have to imagine you want things to be harmonious as well. Like, what's your vision for bringing harmony back to the seniors and providing them with the services and a meeting center that they've enjoyed?
Yeah. So, and the reason I kind of giggle when you say that is because every time I hear someone say about, evicted the seniors,
I know. I was trying to dodge the word, but I was like, there's no other way. I was like, they were asked to leave. Like, no, they got a notice.
You might be too young for this, but back in the day, there was a political thing that the Democrats were running against the conservatives, and they were pushing grandma in a wheelchair over the cliff regarding Medicare and other stuff.
Yeah,
and
I don't recall that.
That's what I think of every time I hear someone say something about that. So here's the thing about the senior center. The senior center has not been closed at all. It is thriving. We have more people there than we've had before. There are folks coming. Unfortunately, what happened was the nonprofit organization decided to tell people that it was closed, tell people we were moving in staff in there, telling people we were not going to have it. I mean, there was even a rumor that, we were going to sell it and have, apartments put in. It was just ridiculous. Okay. And this is one of the other things that's you've got to group this nonprofit organization, right, that has been spewing these lies to the seniors, which is so sad. And now you've got someone like Pike who wants to work with that group. Why would you do that? We have done a great thing for the seniors. It is going to make sure that it works for the long term and be prosperous for them. This nonprofit has a $5 million tort claim against them, have no idea where it's going to go, right? But you never know. They've come to us for 2 years asking for money from the city, and we gave it to them as a nonprofit. Here we are going out and giving money to this nonprofit. They just looked like they weren't going to be stable long term. And so for our seniors, do we all of a sudden one day the nonprofit closes the doors, locks up the building, and hands us the keys, and now we have to figure it out? Or do we go, hey, we have a 120-day, that we can give them notice, that they can go figure something out if they want to continue to do things for the seniors to add on to what we're doing. But now we have 120 days to figure out what we're going to do to take care of these seniors and make sure they don't have disruptions in their lives, because, consistency for the seniors is so important. And so that's all it was. And it's the craziest thing is Brad Pike voted for us to do everything that we did. That's what's amazing about so many of these things. Even the Arts Commission, it was the same thing. He voted to disband the Arts Commission. And I don't know, maybe I'll go back to it. Maybe he was just the mushroom in the closet and wasn't coming out to, see what was going on. But I mean, he got the same information every other council member did. And these were decisions that made our community better as we move forward and made sure we stuck to our values and the things that we want to have in our community. And so we want to continue that.
Gotcha. So, and again, I think there was a lot of confusion, and you're clearing up a bit of it for me as well. The idea, when I talked to Brad initially in our first interview, he was saying, look, it was better for the senior center to remove the organization. And I remember asking him, like, wait, it was better for the senior center to evict the senior center. But it sounds like what he was actually meaning and what you're alluding to now is like, no. Look, if you imagine a senior physical senior center building and offering the services through that, it was better to take over operation of that under the city instead of having the nonprofit do it, because obviously the city doesn't have any risk of going bankrupt or well, at least not now, I hope anyway.
This isn't California. You got to get out of that mentality.
Oh my God.
We have to have balanced budgets. We have to have all the right things.
Right. So, bottom line is and I had absolutely heard the rumors that it's like, okay, they're taking over the building to move like parks and recs into it, or expand the city offices in it. Overwhelmingly, you're saying unequivocally that is not true. You guys are not moving city offices in there. You are preserving it for the seniors. It will be the senior center building, and now the operations within that building will just be run by the city, not the nonprofit, and you want all of the seniors to be welcome there and happy to be there.
Exactly. And the thing is all those rumors were started by, luckily, a candidate, Ridgway, who is no longer involved in this mayoral race, right? He has been, him and the folks that are so upset that I won the mayoralship in 2019 and totally made sure that this community will stay a great community in the future and not be changed, was trying to get all these lies and rumors out there. And it was so sad because all it did was it affected the seniors, right? We're out there going, no, we're open. You're here. Everybody can come in. You can, and they're being told that we're closed. I mean, that is just, how can any person in their right mind do that to the senior community is just unbelievable. And luckily we don't have to deal with that anymore. Hopefully he'll go away now. But now you've got it being played as a card by my opponent as, he's going to, reestablish the scene. You're going to bring, the nonprofit back and Ridgway back into the fold of these horrible things that they've done to the seniors already. We move forward. We've got a great thing going there.
Gotcha.
Good people, Meals on Wheels is still there doing the meals. I mean, there's been even talk that the prices were raised for the food. That has nothing to do with us. That's provided through Meals on Wheels. They're the ones that decide what you pay and what you don't for meals throughout the whole valley. They do the Meridian Senior Center, the Boise Senior Center, things in Canyon County too.
Gotcha.
And so,
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Another sticking point between you and Councilman Pike. There's no way to sugarcoat this. It's like, listen, he has been pushing really hard for increased law enforcement, right? Not just the two deputies that were added, but additional, right? And the number of 1 per 1,000 is thrown out very frequently, right? And look, bottom line, why is he wrong? And I recognize there's the idea that, hey, we don't have that much crime. He is very concerned that, hey, you have to be proactive with these things. Why is that not the right thing to do? And how do we afford paying for the 2 additional deputies we just got?
Yeah. So you have to look at everything as what you can afford and what you can do and so on and so forth. So here's the situation. We have increased over the last 4 years I've been mayor, the police budget 24%. Okay. We have added everything that we have been asked to. We work with the sheriff, we work with our chief, and we look at every year, we look at, hey, what is needed in the city as a whole? We look at statistics, what kind of calls are they taking? How many calls? We look at, the 1 per 1,000 number is something that is put into that mix also. Our comprehensive plan talks about, how we look at this. And, that's how we're going to continue. I mean, he's basically in one hand saying we need to listen to our sheriff and do what he wants. And on the other hand, we got to add 10 officers. They've never asked for 10 officers, right? I mean, they put the 1 to 1,000 and maybe we can work towards that. We'll have to see as the city grows. But looking at the numbers is what you really have to do, right? And you have to balance it with what you can afford. Right now, all the property taxes, I'll say 95% of the property taxes that we collect go towards just the police contract. That is it. So if everything else dried up, the only thing we could do is pay for the police force we have right now. If you're going to add 10 more officers, where are you going to find $1.5–2 million, to be able to have those extra officers? Where's that going to come from? And then what's going to happen in a downturn when you need, you might need even more. So that's where that goes. As far, like I said, we have done everything that we've been asked to do by the sheriff as we sit down every year and talk about. We want to be proactive. We want to, make sure that we're able to do what we're able to do. Right. And, adding the new officers and how we're going to pay for that, that's going to have to come out of something that we're not going to have anymore, right? Is it not putting savings away as much? Is it not going to, a new park? Is it going to take longer to do something here? Is it having to go out and get more donations for a park so you can use the tax dollars for the policing.
Gotcha.
And so the thing is I think there's this misunderstanding that all of a sudden we could have just raised the budget and gotten more money for the police. You can't do that in Idaho. You can only raise the budget 3% a year.
Right.
Right. And then it gets distributed through everybody like we talked about before. And so we couldn't have just said, hey, we're going to add 5 more officers and we're going to add another $500,000 to the budget. That's not how it works. You have to pull it from somewhere else. Is basically what you have to do. And so when, there's this talk of, oh, it wasn't in the budget. Well, it could have, all you have to do is shift where you're spending. And so when we look for that extra, money for those officers, then we're going to have to take away from something as that we plan to do, whether it's savings or something else. And that's really a big thing that we've been able to do over the last 4 years is we've been able to save a ton of money. My predecessor was spending every dime that came in. And we've been able to go out and get help from nonprofits. We've been able to get developers to do more. So we've been able to save money and really make it so that when there is a downturn, we don't have to get rid of all the stuff that we like and sometimes even need more in a downturn.
Right. And that's, again, the risk of a downturn. I mean, look, if we can have a soft landing like nationally with the economy and stuff, that'd be great. But it's having that rainy day fund, having that savings so you can kind of bridge that gap in a downturn is crucial for cities, in my opinion.
Well, and that's why if you look at, there's been this big thing about the fact that the budget has gone from 30 million to 52 million. And last year it was 60 million. It's because we're saving. We're not collecting more property taxes because of that. We're collecting the property taxes for the new homes, but we're not. It's the one-time fees. It's a way we're saving. We're not just saying, oh, we're going to spend every nickel and dime, and then we're going to, next year we're going to ask for more. That just isn't how we have done things the last 4 years. What it is it comes through savings. And with the capital plan and the capital maintenance plan that we've put in place, now we have this money there that we're saving to do things and projects that we want in the city. But guess what? If a downturn happens, we can take and use that money to make sure our city continues to run. And that's why we've been able to do this. And we weren't doing that in the past. It was, you don't know how many times I heard from staff, I would ask, well, why didn't we go out and get sponsors for our events and stuff? Oh, past mayor said that, the people will pay for it. That's fine. We don't need to go do that. That's just a waste of time. And I'm the opposite. Let's get as many volunteers in helping the community. Let's get as many people that want to help participate financially. I mean, that's what makes a great community is when everybody's involved.
Yeah, everybody has buy-in.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the government doing everything for you.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, and I actually spoke with Mark Butler recently, who was great. Fantastic conversation. He was talking about the downturn in 2008 and how dark it got. And, it's like you slashed services and like people had to do what they had to do, right? Like the city had to stay solvent. And so you had to slash services. The time it took for city things like planning and zoning skyrocketed because you just didn't have the number of employees and fees providing salaries and stuff, and people left, and it was brutal. So again, great to know that we have that kind of.
Yeah, and the thing is that stuff, the planning and zoning and how that goes is great, but really what it was your area, your parks weren't getting mowed, right? Your trails weren't getting maintained. All the stuff that we love to use around the city of Eagle as Eagle residents, they just went looking horrible. And that's what we just don't want to see. Because like I said, in a downturn, you're probably using more of those things, right? You're not vacationing as much. You're around the town more. You're doing more here. You're not joining the gym maybe because you had to cut back. So you're out walking the trails and doing, and you want those to be better.
Right. Yeah. Shifting to another question, campaign funding. Okay. Now this is not a huge town, right? Like Eagle is not gigantic, but the amount of money that has poured into this, especially this particular campaign, it's like astronomical. I mean, if you add it all up, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. What do you think about that? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And Councilman Pike has made a big deal about not taking funding from like contractors and organizations like that because he feels that there's an assumption that there's a tie there or that you're essentially beholden to them for favors or something like that. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, people say that when they can't get support from people. Let's just put it that way. If you look, I've got 150 plus donors. He's got somewhere in the range of 45, 40, right? You look at 90% of mine are regular, everyday people in the city of Eagle that know that I'm doing a good job. They want to see the city move in the direction that it's going, right? And if your morals cannot tell someone no over $1,000 donation, then you've got bigger issues than than trying to run the city as the mayor, to be honest. So when does it become an issue, whether it's a developer or the person in the community that hates any house that you build? Who are you beholden to? Right? You're beholden.
That's an interesting
You're
perspective.
beholden to nobody. Okay? These people believe in you. That is why they put money towards it. People work hard for their money, whether the developer, the retired police officer, the retired teacher, every donation from the $25 that I've gotten up to the 1,000, right? They all work hard for their money, and they want to support somebody that they believe is moving the city in the right direction. And I'm telling you right now, I have told no to so many developers that have donated to me because we have to do what's right for Eagle. Period. And they understand that. The reason they support me is because I've told them that I will be honest with them from the beginning. If I think a project is not going to get through the council or not going to be supported by the community, I tell them in the beginning. And that really helps a lot of them because then they can adjust it so they don't waste hundreds of thousands of dollars in putting something together that gets denied. I want to see that money go into the project to make it better. We've had developers that have donated, money to the campaign, and they've come in and lessened their density. One of them was from 750 units down to 550. They already had an approved project at 750 homes. And they came in and said, Jason, we heard what you said. We want to build a better high-end product, and we want to lower it to 550. How can we make this work? I'll find a way if you can get me less density. We had an apartment complex, 75 apartments, that were approved in the 90s that they were just now getting ready to build. A new person bought it, said, hey, during your last campaign, I heard what you said. How would you feel if we changed it from 60 to 64 townhomes? Because you said if you're going to have some higher density, you want an owned product. I said, great, let's find a way to make it happen. You have to have relationships with these folks in order to get the best thing for the city of Eagle. And so when you are constantly going after the people that are building the things that you shop in, the things that you live in, the communities that are created, it doesn't do anybody any good. And it's just a shame to see that most of these folks live here in Eagle. 90% of them that are donating, from the development community live in Eagle. They want Eagle to stay an incredible place. They can go and they know they can do the other things in the other cities around, but there's something special here, and they want to make sure it stays special.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And again, the complexity and juxtaposition of look, are you beholden to the person who doesn't want any homes developed, or are you beholden to the person who wants to develop homes? I think that's a very fair sentiment, which is, look, if you look at it through the lens of you owe the person who donated you money, everybody then you owe them something, whatever their priorities are. And yeah, we can poo-poo on developers, but you can also poo-poo on the NIMBY people that don't want anything ever to happen. What about the level of money though? Right. And again, I recognize you've raised a lot of money. I don't think that's inherently bad. Right. I'm just wondering, it's shocking to me because it's that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's more money than has happened in the past. Now, of course, inflation, right? It's just
but here's the thing is people are truly afraid that this is going to turn into where they've come from or what they've seen around the country. Right. Yeah. And that is what they are so afraid. I'll go back to it. You've got my opponent. He was a mayor and councilman in Hollister, California. The decisions that were made 17 or so years ago by him are what made Hollister, California what it is today. The decisions that I have been involved in and the involvement in this community over the last 20 years that I have had is what has turned Eagle into what it is today. A+ crime rating on 90% of the stuff that puts it out there on, right? You've got, the lowest density in this valley as a whole, the highest home values. I mean, some of the best commercial mom and pop shops. It's all because of the things that I have been involved in over the last 20 years, along with others that have done. And now you've got someone coming in that has screwed up someplace else and then moved here and now wants to have control of what's going on in the community. And remember, you don't even have control as the mayor as a whole, right? Your council members are the ones that vote on 90% of what goes on. But you have a lot of influence on how to get folks to go towards the direction of the community that you want to see. Now, granted, Eagles changed a lot. We talked about this last time. When I moved here, 10,000 people. It ended at Park Lane, Floating Feather, Chinden and Horseshoe Bend Road. And now, we've grown tremendously land-wise, but we've been able to take our philosophy and push it out around us so that others' philosophies, Boise's and Stars and Meridian, doesn't come in on us, or even the county, right? They don't come in on us with their development philosophy and everything else, which is totally different than what Eagle does.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And just a quick point. To be fair to Brad, I've only talked to a couple people from Hollister that randomly were like, "Oh, I'm from Hollister too. Like, I know Brad." They did like him as a councilman. I don't know if you have real specifics on like, hey, Brad screwed this up in Hollister. And I have heard people say, well, California in general is bad, so whatever Brad was involved in must have been bad as well. But I haven't heard anything to that effect. If you do have some detail to add, I'm totally happy to hear it.
You can Google search and look at the San Benito Times. It talks about, I think that's how you pronounce it, talks about, what's going on in the county. You just look at where it is today. You got to remember, the decisions don't take place. The decisions I've made in the last 4 years will not show effect for the next 10 or 15, right? There's a little bit. The first 2 years, we're dodging the bullets of the stuff that was done the years before by Ridgeway, right? You look at the apartments on Linder and 44. You look at the apartments over by where Holy Cow was. You look at the apartments that are going to come in the next few years around Albertsons, right? And then you look at the projects that I was involved in years ago, like Valnova, which, is going to put in all the infrastructure, it's going to be an average density, guaranteed of 1 unit per 2 acre and maybe up to 1 to 1. I mean, that's the type of things that are making Eagle what it is and will for the next 40, 50, 60 years, right? When my kids, your kids, hopefully grow up here, and grandkids and so on and so forth. And so that's what I'm saying is the decisions have gotten Hollister to where it is today, right? That were made 17 years ago. He was in support of a 1% tax hike. He was in support of bringing bigger commercial business. Councilman Pike is the only one in Eagle on the council that supported a 55-foot building next to Rembrandt's, a 15-foot exception, 3 stories of apartments. That is not what we want in Eagle.
That was last year,
yes,
correct?
And he was he made the motion. And in his motion, he said, we need to help developers make this pencil. That's not our job. Our job is to bring the best projects and get the best things in the community that we want. And that's why Eagle has sat with these empty lots for so long in downtown. And I've said this for years. We don't give up something for a 10-year fix that's going to give us a 100-year problem. We need to wait until the right stuff comes along that we can approve. If you look at where Wild West is going, I know it's a frustrating thing to see something different than what was there. That was a neat little spot, but they came in under the regulations of what we had with no exceptions. So we couldn't say no. It was the vision that people had put together over the last 30 years for that area, right? But when you have people that are coming in for exceptions and there is nothing to balance to say, okay, this makes it better, then you need to say no.
Right.
I mean, go to downtown Meridian right now where they're building these 4-story plus buildings. Can you imagine one of those in downtown Eagle? Oh my gosh, no.
Right.
It's just 55 foot is just not what we want. 40 feet is what our comprehensive plan says. And, some people only get 2 stories in 40 feet because they do a pitch roof. And then somebody else might come in with a 40-foot building with a flat roof and be able to get that 3rd story.
Right.
And so that's just how we are. But we just don't want to have that stuff. And those are the things that he's doing that is and wants to do that's going to totally change our community. And I'm just do not want to see that.
Gotcha. What is your vision moving forward for the city? And again, I know it's do it the Eagle way, right? Mm-hmm. And there's development coming. There are people moving here. We're not going to be able to stop people from moving here. It's a great place. Mm-hmm. What can you really tell voters that, hey, look, take this to the bank. this is how I plan to manage development. This is my vision, right? This is what I want. Obviously, you can't affect everything, and especially as mayor, you don't get a vote unless there's a tie. But this is your vision for the city moving forward. What is that?
Yeah, so I think it's going to continue to stay low density housing, right? Single family homes, really focusing on those type of environments. You're going to have some spots where you're going to have a little bit more, but once again, owned product, right? Really focus on the townhomes and the condos and those types of things, and not the apartment side of things. Single family homes, once again, as far as the developments that come in, making sure that if the houses are going to be closer together, there's lots of open space, right? For those folks to go out and do things where they don't have to get in a car and drive forever. It's going to be working more towards the commercial side. I think as Eagle continues to grow, people are going to want less and less to go to the Meridians and the Stars and the Boise's, because not only their philosophy on how they're doing things, but also just the fact that it's going to be harder and harder to get around the valley. And, that's because of what they're doing in their cities. And so how do we keep folks spending their dollars here in Eagle and not having to travel as far to get stuff? Now, we're not talking 15-minute city type stuff. We're talking having those different type of products. We don't have the Olive Gardens. We don't have the Red Lobsters or the Chili's, right? We've got the Craves and the Coins, and we've got the Bardonnets. And, we've got these one-offs. Even, the Spitfire Taco that's going in, they have 3 others that are, all down in La Jolla, California, but it's not like they're a franchise all over the place. You'll have some franchises, and a lot of those are owned by, single folks.
In and out.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as they come with a project in the right spot, and
the fourth in and out, though, not the first.
Exactly. Well, I'm telling you,
I
can't even imagine the traffic.
The line is going to be so bonkers when that bad boy opens up. Like, we drive by because we go to HSB basketball down in Meridian with my 11-year-old, and every time we drive by, we're like, is it open? Is it open yet?
Right.
Still fence around it. Listen, I know you're running out of time. One more question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
What are the best things that you think people can look at that you've done in the last 4 years that they can say, okay, look, this is effectively his living resume. This is what he's done. This is what we believe he's going to continue to do. And this is why we want to vote for him. What are those things?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things is keeping the density and the character of Eagle when a project does come in. Private property rights are very important to Idahoans, and making sure that, we do these projects the Eagle way. Okay. And I know a lot of stuff looks like it's breaking ground and everything's disappearing, but imagine coming here 20 years ago and seeing it today. It feels the same way, but they have rights, and we have to work within the law. And so that's what we do when these projects come through. The other is safety. I mean, we have done so much outside of not just hiring police officers and doing that, but we've also, monitored our parks and gotten rid of vandalism and things that are happening at night. No mischievous stuff happening at night at the parks. We've brought in a community officer who's able to do traffic enforcement when there's an accident, or take evidence back and forth to the jail without having to take an officer out of the area. The recreation opportunities are huge, with Avamore coming in 100+ miles of trails, the foothills, making sure that those are in the public's hands for lifetime is gigantic. I mean, the stuff at the BLM, right? The land up at Bureau of Land Management that we're bringing trailheads to in areas. The sports park. That is going to be an incredible asset to this community as we move forward. 95 acres. How to think that we could ever find 95 acres to put together to do something like this, I just couldn't have imagined it. And now it's going to be so great for our community and our kids to get them off the computers and out playing and doing sports and other stuff. And just, trail walking and getting up into the foothills. The shooting sports park. I'm so excited about that. I think that's going to be a tremendous thing moving forward to keep our community, I'll say it, conservative, right? I mean, those are the types of things that people that want to move here, that want to have those, family values and conservative type mentality is going to come from these things that we've done, and just bring the people here that are going to want to take care of the community, love the community, and really keep that small town atmosphere in Eagle.
Gotcha. Listen, I know you got to go. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for running again. The hits that people have taken in this campaign across all the different sections, the Board of Education people, the fire commissioner, it's it's wild. And talking to everyone, it's so encouraging to recognize there are people that are willing to put their necks out there. I mean, I just have to sit on a microphone and, ask questions, but being out there and campaigning and doing what you do and trying to bring the issues to light and fight for what you think is right for the city of Eagle, everybody owes you. So thank you for what you do, and good luck with the campaign.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll just say that people are passionate about this community. Folks have come here to get away from things, and we've got to make sure that it stays that great place that it has been for years moving forward.
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Legacy Life Memories, the premier video autobiographical production company for you and your aging loved ones. Legacy Life Memories helps preserve memories of a lifetime in high-quality video that can be shared with every generation to come. Visit LegacyLifeMemories.com and find out how they can help your family today.